Sarah Johnson stood by the window of her Manhattan office, staring at the bustling city below. At 40, her life appeared flawless to many. She was a successful marketing executive at a top advertising agency, living in a spacious apartment in the heart of New York City. But as she looked out at the streets filled with people going about their lives, Sarah felt an emptiness that the success and bright lights couldn't fill. She had everything except the one thing she truly yearned for: a warm, loving family. Sarah's childhood had been anything but easy. She grew up in a small town in Connecticut, and at the age of 10, she lost her mother to cancer. Her father, George, was a banker who threw himself into his work after his wife's death, leaving Sarah to take care of herself and her younger brother, Michael. She often found herself crying late into the night, clutching her mother's photograph, wishing her mother were still there. Her mother had left her a watch, a beautiful piece with the engraving, "My dear Sarah, always with you." That watch became her only comfort, a symbol of her mother's love. Despite her hardships, Sarah took on the role of caregiver for her little brother. She learned to cook, do laundry, and shop for groceries. Michael looked up to her as his guide. "Sarah, can you help me with my homework?" he would ask in his small voice, and she would smile, knowing she had to be strong for both of them. The watch gave her strength when she needed it most. It was with her through every important moment of her life, including her acceptance to Yale University, where she discovered her passion for marketing. After graduating from Yale, Sarah moved to New York, where she quickly climbed the corporate ladder in the advertising industry. Her career was booming, and at 30, she met Tom. He was a musician with a charming smile, and they met by chance one night after one of his performances at a local bar. He complimented her eyes, saying they were like a starry sky. Sarah was captivated by his warmth and his devotion to his sister, Jessica, who was an actress on Broadway. The way he spoke about Jessica made Sarah think that Tom was a family man, someone who would make her dreams of having a loving family come true. Sarah and Tom's relationship moved quickly. They were married on a rooftop overlooking Central Park, surrounded by friends and family. The Manhattan skyline glittered behind them as they exchanged vows, and for the first time in years, Sarah believed she was on her way to having the family she had always wanted. They welcomed their son, Ethan, a year later, and Sarah felt a sense of hope she had never known before. She would hold baby Ethan in her arms, marveling at his resemblance to both her and Tom, thinking they had everything they needed to be happy. But as time went on, cracks began to appear in their seemingly perfect life. Tom's dedication to his music meant he wasn't around much, leaving Sarah to handle most of the parenting responsibilities. She would wake up in the middle of the night for Ethan's feedings and change his diapers, while Tom spent his nights practicing or with Jessica. Sarah tried her best to be understanding, reminding herself of the importance of having both parents present for a child, something she had missed out on. The tension reached a breaking point when Sarah discovered that the watch, her mother's watch, was missing. She searched frantically, her heart pounding as she tore through drawers and boxes. When Tom came home that evening, she asked if he knew where it was. He hesitated, and then said, "I gave it to Jessica." She really wanted it. Sarah felt her chest tighten. "That watch is my mother's keepsake. You knew how much it meant to me," she said, her voice trembling. Tom shrugged it off, saying, "It's just a watch, Sarah. Jessica looked great with it. I thought your mom would be happy." Sarah felt something snap inside her. She couldn't believe the person she had trusted could disregard her feelings so easily. The argument escalated, with Tom dismissing her pain and telling her, "If you keep nagging, maybe divorce is an option." His words were like a slap to the face, and Sarah knew in that moment she couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. For her own, she explained that after taking the watch, her engagement had fallen apart. Her fiancé's father had recognized the watch as one he had gifted Sarah's mother years ago. When Jessica tried to lie about how she got it, the truth came out, and her fiancé ended their engagement. Not only that, but Jessica claimed that she had been having nightmares and accidents ever since she wore the watch. She begged Sarah to take it back. When Sarah got the watch back, she felt a mix of emotions. She was relieved to have her mother's keepsake returned, but the entire ordeal had left her feeling exhausted and disillusioned. Tom, too, tried to reconcile, but his apologies felt empty. He even tried to manipulate her by threatening financial ruin if she went through with the divorce. But Sarah had her brother Michael by her side. Michael made it clear to Tom that Sarah had grounds for divorce, and that he would fight for her rights. "It's over, Tom," Sarah said firmly. "I can't trust you anymore." The divorce process was tough, but Sarah stayed strong for Ethan. In the end, she was awarded custody of Ethan and kept their apartment. Tom, on the other hand, was left to deal with the consequences of his actions. He had to take on multiple jobs just to keep up with his financial obligations, and his dreams of a music career faded into the background. After the divorce, Sarah threw herself into her work, determined to build a better future for herself and Ethan. Her dedication paid off, and she was promoted to vice president of the agency. Her increased income allowed her to provide a better life for Ethan, and with her father and brother's support, she was able to find a balance between work and parenting. George, her father, was always there to help, taking Ethan out on weekends to give Sarah some time to rest. "I wasn't there for you when you needed me, Sarah," George admitted one day. "But I'm here now, for both you and Ethan." Life began to take on a new rhythm, and one day, Sarah met Paul Brown at a business meeting. Paul was a vice president at a client's company, and they bonded over their shared experiences as single parents. Paul had lost his wife 5 years ago and was raising his daughter, Emily, alone. The two began to spend more time together, their conversations moving from business to personal topics. Paul admired Sarah's strength, and she found comfort in his gentle nature. Over time, their relationship blossomed, and they began to introduce their children to each other. Ethan grew fond of Paul, calling him Uncle Paul, and Emily adored Sarah. The two families often spent holidays together, and it wasn't long before Paul proposed. "Sarah, meeting you brought joy back into my life. Will you walk this journey with me?" he asked, his voice filled with emotion. With tears in her eyes, Sarah said yes. Their wedding was a simple ceremony, attended only by close friends and family. Sarah wore her mother's watch, feeling her presence with her on that special day. As she looked at the engraving, "My dear Sarah, always with you," she whispered. "Mom, I've finally found true happiness." Life as a blended family had its challenges, but with love and patience, they found their way. Paul was a wonderful partner, and together they created a stable home for Ethan and Emily. The children bonded like siblings, supporting each other through school and celebrating each other's successes. One evening, Ethan came to Sarah with a determined look on his face. "Mom, I want to be a lawyer like Uncle Michael. I want to help people who are in trouble," he said. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she hugged her son. Emily, on the other hand, showed a natural talent for art. She would often present Sarah with drawings of their family, each one more detailed and filled with love than the last. "Look, Mom, I drew all of us together," Emily said one day, holding up a picture that showed Sarah, Paul, Ethan, and herself, all smiling. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she looked at the drawing, realizing just how far they had come as a family. Years passed, and when Sarah turned 50, she received unexpected news. Tom had been hospitalized due to cirrhosis. A friend reached out, asking if Sarah planned to visit him. The thought weighed heavily on her, but she knew Ethan deserved the chance to see his father. "Ethan, Your dad's in the hospital. Do you want to go see him? She asked gently. Ethan hesitated but nodded, and together they visited Tom. Seeing Tom in the hospital, frail and a shadow of his former self, stirred complex emotions in Sarah. He looked up at them, his voice weak. "Sarah, Ethan, thank you for coming," he said. He looked at Ethan, his eyes filled with regret. "You've grown so much, son. I'm sorry for everything." Sarah could see the sincerity in his eyes, and though the wounds of the past hadn't fully healed, she knew forgiveness was the only way forward. "It's okay, Tom. Just focus on resting now," she said softly. Later, as Sarah shared the experience with Paul, he held her close. "You are incredibly strong, Sarah. You've faced so much and come out the other side even stronger. I'm so proud of you," he whispered. In his embrace, Sarah felt a sense of peace. Her life had been full of hardships, but it had also brought her to this moment, surrounded by people who truly loved her. Months later, Tom passed away, and Sarah and Ethan attended his funeral. Jessica, surprisingly, did not show up. After the service, Sarah looked at her mother's watch. It was no longer a symbol of loss and loneliness, but a reminder of the strength that had carried her through life's challenges. The watch's steady ticking seemed to echo the sentiment that life, despite everything, always moves forward. As the years continued to pass, Ethan went off to college, following in Michael's footsteps to become a lawyer. Emily, now in high school, was thriving as an artist, her talent growing with every new piece she created. Sarah, nearing 60, had become the CEO of her advertising agency. She had worked hard to get there, and her journey was now inspiring others around her. One afternoon, Sarah was speaking with a young employee who looked visibly overwhelmed. "I'm struggling to balance work and being a mom," the employee confessed. Sarah smiled warmly. "I've been there. Let's figure it out together," she said, knowing that her experiences, all the pain, the growth, the love, had brought her to a place where she could help others. Coming home that evening, Paul greeted her at the door. "Welcome back, Sarah. How was your day?" he asked, his smile comforting her after a long day. "It was fulfilling," she replied, her heart full. They began to prepare dinner together, sharing the day's stories. Soon, Ethan and Emily returned home and the house filled with laughter and warmth. "Mom, I got an internship," Ethan announced excitedly, while Emily added, "I won a prize in an art competition today." Sarah beamed with pride, feeling the joy of her children's successes. She went to her room and took out her mother's watch. "Ethan, Emily," she called, "come here. I want to show you something." She held out the watch. "This belonged to your grandmother. She always believed in me, and I want you both to know that I believe in you." Ethan looked at the watch, reading the inscription. "Grandma was always watching over you, wasn't she?" he asked. "Yes, she was," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. Emily, her eyes wide with admiration, added, "I want to be someone who can care for others like that too." Paul placed his hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Your mother would be so proud of you, Sarah," he said softly. Sarah smiled, her eyes misting over. Her journey had not been easy, but it had led her here, to a place of true happiness. She looked at her family, her loving husband, her resilient son, her talented daughter, and she felt her mother's presence, still watching over them. "Mom," she whispered in her heart, "I'm happy. I've finally found the warmth of a true family."